For more on today's historic hearing, I'm joined by 60 Minutes correspondent Lesley Stahl. Lesley covered the Watergate scandal and was a CBS News White House correspondent during the Carter, Reagan, and George H.W. Bush administrations. Lesley, what a pleasure it is to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
So glad to be here, Elaine.
So what were your takeaways, first of all, from the hearings today?
Elaine, I worked all day.
Okay.
My husband promises that he taped it, so I will go home and watch.
So let me ask you, though, you have experience in this kind of highly charged political environment, although obviously it's a much different information landscape with Twitter, with social media,
right,
with various media that did not exist when you were covering the White House. What role do you think that plays into the kinds of analysis that we see coming out of a hearing like this? Because it used to be you'd play a bite, people would kind of have a few places to go to kind of digest that. It's not that way anymore.
No. Watergate, for instance, they ran the hearings live all day long. Then there would be a sum-up special every night with a little bit of analysis. We didn't have panels. We didn't have people constantly analyzing, telling the public what we thought. You didn't do that. You stepped back. We were unopinionated. And there were only 3 channels, and we were all basically saying the same things. Today, I don't know how many different cable channels are covering this, and streaming channels and so forth. And each outlet now has an opinion. You're either on the right or the left, and so you're getting an angle each time. And you could flip around and I would think almost feel that they're covering a different hearing than the ones over here are covering. So the public is going to be hearing all different kinds of explanations, analysis, and I suspect that people are going to tune into the outlet that they already like. So you're not going to hear too much argument and individualism, which is too bad. You want to have the input, I would think.
So I want to ask you about sort of messaging. We've heard President Trump time and time again defend that call, that July 25th phone call. The perfect call, time and time again. He has used Twitter, as you know well. You have sat down and interviewed the president. Are there any echoes in the messaging that we're hearing from President Trump today with what we heard from President Nixon when you covered the White House?
Well, of course, they both attacked the press. Nixon didn't say fake news, but the sense of it was. I remember his vice president used to call us nattering nabobs of negativism, right?
Yeah.
It was humor in those days, not much humor today. The messaging is so different because the person is so different. Nixon was not on camera every minute. He was not before us every second. He was a retiring person. We very rarely heard from him when he was president. It was unusual for him to have a news conference and became even more reclusive as the scandal grew. We didn't know him that well. We know this man. Everybody in the country knows this man. We see him constantly. So because the nature of the president is so different, it feels different. What feels the same to me is the way the Republicans are sort of circling the wagons and protecting the president. The Republicans did the same thing during Watergate and during those impeachment hearings. It wasn't until the tape came out and people saw the evidence that the Republicans peeled off. But up until the very end, they were with him and defending him and doing the same kinds of things you're seeing Republicans do today.
So as someone who has sat across from President Trump and interviewed him and seen him sort of in action, communicating his message, we continue to hear the president talk about this proceeding as a sham. How much control, when you bring in outside officials, for instance, as they're going to be doing and setting up a war room, how much control realistically can those officials possibly have when you have a communicator like a President Trump who so clearly believes in the power of his own skills in that arena?
Well, he won't listen to them because he doesn't. We keep reading, listen to the people around him. And you know, he is a gifted, it is not just he's a gifted communicator. but that he has talent for what will work. And what works, as he's discovered, and we're learning from him, is pounding away at the same thing over and over and over. Fake news, fake news, fake news. And you hear a message that many times, almost anybody's going to start to wonder, maybe he's telling the truth. He has a talent for disruption. He has a lot of gifts for today's kind of communicating. Mm-hmm. It's not only that he goes on camera and is pretty effective, but the twittering constantly, and he knows a language to use. It's authentic language, it is.
What are you going to be keeping an eye out for here? I know you're busy over at 60 Minutes.
I know, I'm busy all day long, and I kept looking up at screens because other people in the office had television on. I feel that I'm out of it. I have to get home and watch.
You are not at all out of it, Lesley
Elaine,
Stahl.
tell me what happened.
Well, watch Red and Blue, Lesley, and we'll get you caught up.
Okay, done.
Lesley Stahl, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much, Lesley.
Thank you. Anytime.